All right. Yeah, so welcome, guys. Samuel and Steve. Welcome, my friends. So, we're going to continue from where we actually left off yesterday, but I just want to be sure you guys can hear me. Samuel, can you hear me? Samuel, Steve.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, nice,
Hello,
nice.
good evening.
Yeah,
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you, Steve. Awesome, I can hear you. All right, nice, nice. So we're currently streaming, and yeah, I think we're just going to, jump into um, let's just do like a quick, review, of what we covered yesterday, and then we'll have Samuel for the first 20 minutes do a quick, overview of what we expect to deliver if we're asked to, work on a PRD for, such a solution. All right. By the way, how did your day go, Steve? Let's start with you, the engineer, the backend engineer.
Okay. Oh yeah. Hello guys. So my day went pretty well. I spent the most part, working on a modification of something that we built initially at the company. So that's what I did for the most part. Yeah. And
Oh,
this evening I was just working through some front end related code. Yeah.
oh, okay, nice. That's
Yeah.
full stack.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
stack. All right. So, Samuel, what about you? How did your day go today, Samuel?
Oh well, my day was exhausting. Can you hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear
All
you.
right. Good evening, Marv. Good evening, Steve. Good evening, everyone. And yeah, I had a very exhausting day. I'm actually having headache at the moment, and but yeah, I'm here, and of course, I can take the session. I'm to
Nice.
take the PRD, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course, the PROD.
All right.
Um, okay. So before you dive into that, yesterday we actually looked into understanding, what the system is all about. So basically, what we did yesterday was a brainstorming session, and if you're watching this, a brainstorming session is basically what you do with, the entire team, when you are building your project. Now, a brainstorming session, of course, can be done within a specific portion of the team. So, for example, your team, you actually have like the engineering, the design, the PMs guys, those that manage the product. You have like sometimes you even have like we can even include the product owner, which in some case can actually be the PM, in some other case can actually be the founder, right? Or some clients. And yeah, in some brainstorming session, you even have like users right there, to actually think through the problem. People that are facing such challenge, or people that are necessarily going to be using the software in the real world. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to brainstorming sessions, you're actually looking at all the stakeholders that are actually building the system, and you come together to think about what should be done, right, as regards building that solution. What we did yesterday was just an example. We are mostly engineers and product designers and product managers, but we are not really we did not really look at things from a user angle, which is why I said ideally we have to like conduct research, right? Which is what we will always advise startup owners or product developers to always start with that. Uh, Conduct some research, do some carry out some survey, ask questions, interview users, potential users, right? And then you come back to your team with those feedbacks. For those of you that have done anything around UI UX, I'm sure you have heard about empathy mapping. You talk about the user journey. Uh, I'm sure Samuel actually would be in the best position to explain more of these things, but we're not going to be covering that tonight. We're just going to dive straight into the PRD. What we did yesterday, we were looking at how we could build a gift card solution, right? A gift card exchange platform. All right, and we actually brought out some features, having the gift card listing and trading service. I'm just going to refer to these items as services. So the gift card listing service, the trading or purchase service, the verification service. We had user profile and ratings. We had analytics and reporting, and we have the value calculator. So what we are going to do right now is just have Samuel walk us through, the various sections of a PROD and what is expected to be in that session. And of course, tell us the benefit of even having a PROD in the first place. So Samuel, can you go ahead and share your screen?
All right. Sure. I'm going to be sharing my screen.
All right. So once Samuel starts sharing his screen, myself and Steve will be backstage. So I would go off the stage. Samuel, if you need us
Okay.
to, answer some questions, you can invite us. Just, we would show up. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
So, I mean, you're good to go.
All right. So can you see my screen? Before you leave,
Yeah.
I would before you leave. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. I think you should just like make it what? Yeah, good, good. I think it's
Okay.
yeah, I
I
think it's
think
quite
this
visible.
this should
For those of you, yeah. So for those of you in the audience, you can drop a message. I think I can see a message from Anita. Good evening, Anita. Yeah, Anita, where are you joining us from? Anita. All right. So I think we have five people watching from the Top Universe server. So guys, if you're currently on the Discord server, please go ahead and drop a message and just drop a reminder for the others to join us. Yeah. So good evening, Anita. Samuel. Samuel, you can
Yeah.
proceed, please. Yeah.
All right. All right. So yeah, you guys can see this. Since this is visible, we just started. So PRD is the document that contains the basically it allows you to increase it. So I'm going to bring it a bit closer. Going to bring it a bit closer. So this is a PRD template, but yeah, we'll just speak about what a PRD is, what it's meant for, why you should have it, and we'll go through the template together. So yeah, um, my name is Samuel. I'm a product designer, and of course, basically my work involves work moving from research, understanding the problem, then designing the solution, working with engineers to implement it. But my work also involves interfacing with product managers. I think, okay, I think I broke out a bit. All
Yeah,
right, so
Samuel. So it seems like the
yeah, so
network
well as
keeps
order
going
design
off.
and Marvelous. If it's possible for you to stay on the call
Yeah. Okay.
in
Okay.
case my network,
All
so
right.
that I can get that feedback. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically that's where I come in, more working with to bring the solution to life. So now a PRD, full meaning of PRD is product requirement document. So product, I just spell it out. Product requirement, requirement, requirement document. Document. Give me a second. It's not. Um. All right. So the full meaning of PRD is product requirement document, and basically it allows you to, just like the name implies, it's a document that contains the requirement of the product. So what are we building? Why are we building it? What's the purpose of the project? That's the product. What is the purpose of it? What are we exactly building? Remember yesterday I asked the question about what kind of solution are we trying to build? What's the nature of it? What are the functions of the product? What are the features that it would have? Who are the target audience? Basically, answering all those basic questions as it pertains to the product. Want to know what we are building, want to know the different aspect of it that have to work together for the product to actually go live, to get released. And we need to have that in document because it's important to have the entire team on the same page. It's important to know, for everybody to know exactly what everybody is doing, so everybody to feel a part of the project, a part of, and contribute towards making it to bringing it live. So it's really very important to have this a document like this to put everything together and define what you want to build. So yeah, usually it's good to use Google Docs. As there are other tools you could use. You could use tools like Confluence if you're working in an organization where documentation happens on platforms like Confluence. You could be using tools. There are so many tools that you could use depending on the organization to set this up. Google Docs is also one of those places where you can put, you can have your product requirement documents, and yeah, so it's a live document and it's a source of truth. A source of truth means that no matter the stage in the product development cycle you are, it allows you to be able to know, come back to document and and verify and understand exactly what you're building. So it's that one place where you get to know the truth of what you are trying to build. So it is very important to have that at the very beginning of the project. So the first question is what what kind of solution would you be building that will require a PRD? Well, basically, if you are building a software solution, of course, if you're building a software solution for the most part, and not just software solution, I believe even if you're building a hardware related solution, it's still important to have a list of requirements, a list of things that you want that product to do, a list of functionalities, a list of limitations, a list of constraints. Basically, on having all those parameters listed out is also very important. But yes, in the context of this conversation, we're talking about digital products. So we're talking about the solution. The If you're building a digital solution that requires software development, that requires digital design, yes, you do need a PRD. And not just that, it could be that you're building a product from scratch. It could be that you're building a product that building a feature on an already existing platform. But basically, no matter if you're starting a new project in to implement a particular solution, you do require it's very important to have a PRD. And PRD is created at the beginning, right? You need create a PRD before you start the project, right? You've settled the budgeting, you've settled every other aspect from with the stakeholders, with the business side, and you have gotten the go ahead to start implementing the project, building the product. So you've settled all the technicalities, all the managerial concerns, and now you are ready to build. Then you create your PRD. Now, this is not a one size fits all PRD document template. Of course, it would differ depending on the team and what you're trying to build. But hopefully, this gives you a clear picture of what a PRD is and what it does. So yeah, of course, you have a heading. In an ideal scenario, this will not be the heading. This could be like, let's say, Cypher has been my fancy word today. So Cypher PRD. Let's say Cypher is a SaaS solution and with a SaaS solution, and this is the documentation for what we're trying to build. Then, of course, who is the person in charge of building the PRD? Obviously, it will be one person, but one person will be the person who is pioneering it, but it is a team effort. So let's say me, myself, Sam, and the PM, project product manager. Then, of course, my team here could involve other designers, PMs, could involve. So yes, I think this is also a very important aspect to PRDs. So the team, people that contribute to the build development of a PRD document is not just limited to a design. In fact, designers are not necessarily in charge of building a PRD. It's the job of the product manager to develop the PRD. But in the absence of a product manager on a team, in a team where there is no product manager, the designers, the responsibility of creating a PRD falls on the designers to create. So because we are the closest to the product and we understand the product at a product level more than the engineers who are more focused on implementing the software itself. So yeah, when there is no product manager, we are designers are responsible for implementing this. So that's one. And of course, if that's not possible, perhaps even a senior the engineer can maybe come in, liaise with the engineer, the designer to implement it. So yeah, this would contain a list of people who are involved in the decision making of what goes into the PRD, and that could range from, like I mentioned, the designer, the engineers, the product managers, and also the people from the business team. So for the business side, stakeholder, the CEO of the company, whoever is in charge of making
key decision that would influence the success of the project. You need to have those key stakeholders in the team that will be creating documents because their the input matters a lot. So you need to have them in. If they are internal customers, people basically people who get to review the product, the solution when it is ready, but they are internal, people who won't go out and spill out what you're trying to build to the public. Well, in that case, you can also bring them in into the process of building the PRD. And so, yes, you basically want to have the names of those key people. So the product manager, the engineering lead, the key designer, and sign offs. So another thing is that when you come to PRD, the other so because the PRD is meant to be the source of truth, it also connects to other documentation. So in an ideal environment, though this is not necessarily not every organization might have some good level of depth when it comes to documentation, but documentation plays a very important role in building a sustainable organization, basically, really building a software solution. So um, it is very important to contain links to other aspects of documentation that the company or that the project would need. For example, link to strategy documents where strategy document for the UX, strategy generally for the for the platform, then also link to, of course, the GitHub, if and whatever tool that will be used for managing the task, links to the Figma file where the designers are working on it. You want all available links that relate to the product, to the project, to be available in the document so that whenever people are going through the PRD, they can easily have access to those different branch off to explore those different um, documents, files, basically anything that contains to the project. Then first thing we have is the overview. The overview is basically where you, in clear, easy to understand terms, you describe what the product you're trying to build is all about. So very simple, go straight to the point. You do not use ambiguous or hard to understand words. Of course, in as much as you're speaking to people which are the people, the team, they are trying to define this term together. The people who would be having access to this PRD will basically be the entire organization who may not be familiar with the technicality of design or technicality of engineering or the technicality of product. So you want to use simple terms that someone from marketing or someone from accounting can easily go through and understand. So that's one. Then of course, very simple, a single paragraph will do just fine to capture the. I'm going to grab, I want to see if I can grab a sample overview because I think I worked on something for. So yeah, I created a sample for. So Tech's Garage is also organizing a an open source. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to grab sample, right? So I'm going to grab a sample of sample quickly and to drop it here. So now look at this. Now, if this is two paragraph, but even the first paragraph itself explains what the solution is all about, and you see it's a permission-based multi-talent healthcare record-based database, and it's used to connect used by health providers. Basically, you can read through and understand exactly what the project is all about from the first page. So that's always very important to describe what the solution is, what the project's about, not necessarily solution. Then you go over to list the goals. So at the end of this project, what do I want to accomplish? What are the objectives? What are the things you want to tick off? Then
All right. So I think we. Samuel, are you back?
I do not know if I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. All right. Yeah,
All
go on,
right.
please. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so we have the overview, we have the goals and objectives, then we also have target users. So yeah, target users are it's very important. This also applies to business generally. You want to know the people that you're trying to serve, people that you're trying to bring the solution you're trying to create to. So you need to define them. What segment, What specific people? You have to define it to the very detail. Are they young? Are they old? Where do they stay? Can you point them out in a crowd? Can you point out, okay, these are the people, this particular person, this person built, this solution is built for. So being able to be very clear and very specific to the kind of people you're targeting, both geographically, psychography, and basically all those different aspects of filtering your users would allow you to better design a solution, create a solution that pinpoints people, the users that you're trying to create for. And when people eventually interact with the solution, it feels like the solution was built for them. So yeah, to so now this is just basically listing the users. Now when you come down here, you will now get to give more details of the scenario. So yeah, here you get to define, okay, the persona. So let's say you are building a solution for let's say you're building a real estate platform, right? You're building a real estate platform to connect people who are looking for houses to people who have who basically maybe agents, people who have access to houses, right? And yeah, basically that kind of environment. So the platform has that. So want to say, okay, so we're looking for people. The persona here will be buyers. So what kind of buyers are we looking at? We're looking at middle aged, most likely. So we could pick gender, we could pick age, we could pick location. Let's say the platform is in Nigeria. So we're looking for Nigerians. So what age range of Nigerians are more likely to look for a house? So let's say people within the age of 28 to 35. Let's see, okay, people can select gender. Let's say maybe men, maybe women. So we want to select that too. Then when we do that, we can say, okay, let's say Tayo. Tayo you is the person is the person. Do you describe what a possible person in this, that's the target user, is? So you define the person, then you go on to include how the person is most likely, how the journey would look like of the person interacting with the platform. Now, would maybe in subsequent conversations, I would go into detail and give you a sample of this. I would speak with Marv and see how that would work. So yeah, after that we have the features where you list down the features. So you have, so basically for the features you have to you can have a paragraph just below here describing what the feature is. Then you have a bullet point of the intricate details of the feature. So the feature is this, the feature is that, this feature is supposed to do this function of the feature and all that. Then same thing, if there are multiple features, of course there would be multiple features. So you do that as well. So functional requirements is basically you're describing what each feature should do. So you have going to contain, you're taking the feature and breaking. So the same thing here, we had the user target users, then here basically breaks down the target users further. Now the same thing here, we have features, then this breaks down the features further, showing the different aspect of the features that need to be in the feature for it to function. So then we also have other requirements that are not necessarily functional. Not functional basically means that they are not directly connected to the feature or the product, but they are also very important for the product to succeed. So things like, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this part. So here it had the description, the detailed description of each feature what each feature should do, specifying input, output, interaction, and other parts of the product. So for the non-functional requirements, we're talking about performance, talking about scalability, security, usability, and other aspects that don't necessarily involve the product features. Like I mentioned earlier, if you are trying to serve a billion people, or you're trying to target Africa, or you're trying to target or you're having some certain constraint that you want to work around. So you have to mention all those different aspects that you have to consider. Maybe you target people who have some level of disability. You have to also consider some level of usability for them as well. So now for assumptions, usually there will be assumptions about the product, things that you there's no there, remember at this point the products, they've not been researched in terms of the design aspect, so you've not really done so much of research. Of course, they must may have been research from the business side, but they may not have been research from the business side as well. So this is the very early phase. Nothing has been tested, nothing has been verified. So there will be definitely assumptions from the team. So you have to list those assumptions, things that all things being equal should help the product succeed. So you also have to have that mentioned as well so that you could check them off against the realities that you later discover when the product is implemented. So now in terms of dependencies, dependencies here could involve the APIs from that's from the engineering side, the platforms that you'll be using for the implementation that the product would not be able to product might not reach fruition if they are not included integrated into the solution. So like especially the API is a very good example of services. For example, maybe you're building a bank or a fintech related solution where you have to integrate the platform to already existing infrastructure to allow it to work. So, or maybe you're building an e-commerce platform where you need to connect the e-commerce platform to payment gateways for it to be able to receive payments. Those are dependencies. So another thing is also the design. So you just need to add a link to the Figma file. Not you're not going to paste images of the design here. You don't do that. Just the link is just about enough. Then of course, what are the risks? So there are certain solutions that are more risk focused. So there are some solutions you'll be creating in industries that are heavily regulated or industries that have high level of risk, maybe from hackers or whatever level kind of risk that exists. So you want to identify those risks and plan for them and plan to mitigate them as well. So that in terms of what I mentioned earlier, in terms of industries regulation, this is a section where you include that. So if you are creating solution with, for example, within the insurance sector or the fintech sector, you would also need to be very careful with regulation within the geographical area where the product is being built. So you want to make sure that the solution aligns with the government's rules and regulation concerning solutions that relate to what you're building. You want to make sure that you've identified them, you've listed them, and your solution is going to align with them at the end of the day. So you also want to mention KPIs. Before I proceed, Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure, Samuel, I can hear
All
you.
right, all right. So yeah, so we have KPIs. KPIs stand for key performance indicators. So I is indicator, then S is indicators, so plural. So we want to list KPIs basically mean we want to list the things that would we would see in at the end of the day when the product finally built that we could check off. So it's like a checklist. So you can see KPIs as checklists. So things that we can say, okay, if at the end of the day so this and this thing works, then we can say that we achieve our performance, basically the things that we wanted to achieve. So things you would check off against your performance. And so yeah, and also how to handle errors. Yes, you have to list the things that you want to check off when the product's actually released. For example, when the product finally released, you want to know, maybe you want to know if you want to know how many people if use the platform within the first 1 month. You want to know the number of people who have issues using the platform, number of people who contacted support. You want to know how many people who had issue who bounce rates. So things like bounce rate could be another things you want to perhaps include. Maybe also the amount of bugs or the time it took to come. Basically, there are a lot of things you could add depending on the project and kind of things you want to include in your KPI. Then for handling errors, basically, when you have your KPIs in situations where you don't meet up with your KPI, how do you handle those different issues that might come up in terms of making sure that what you eventually create aligns with the goals you've set initially. So now this table is basically where you can list those requirements, the requirements at the top, then you match them against basically you organize your requirements for the project based on priorities. Let's say the solution is meant to have um let's go back to e-commerce solution. It's meant to have we need to have a payment methods needs to be in the platform. It's a very key feature, of course, to enable the platform's payment. We need search. Search would allow you to customers to be able to search for products from no matter where they are in the solution. Then we also want to have an authentication system. So basically, when they come into the platform, they need to be able to authenticate. So let's just mention this, right? So now we now have to reorganize. So this way, let's assume these are requirements that have been listed up at the top already under the requirements. So here we then need to reorganize the requirements, putting the most important requirement at the top, then the least important at the bottom. So arranging them according to order of priority. So now for the most important, it should be zero, right? Then the importance, so priority zero is the most important. You could rearrange it differently, but usually P0 is the holy grail, which is most important. Then as it trickles down, it becomes less important. So it's P0, then P1, P2, and the rest. So yeah, you want to do that and arrange your requirements so that when the developers and designers are looking at the document, they know what solution, what feature to focus on and implement first. Then also question and answer, you can put your name here, ask your question here, then anyone that has access to answer or has the correct answer to your question can also answer your question here. It is in tabular form so that everyone can see the questions that have been asked and the answers that have been provided and see how those questions and answers have changed what the document looks like. Then also we also have features and timeline phasing. So for each feature, you would have to define what deadline. So let's say you are trying to create like 5 features, and it might not necessarily be features, but you might divide the products. So when you now start the development, right, you have to set certain goals in terms of deadlines that you want. Okay, by so and so week, we want to have been done with so and so the part of the project. Let's go back to the e-commerce platform. Let's say by the first week we want to have done research for the platform. So it might not necessarily be feature. That's what I'm trying to say. So it might not necessarily be feature. It could also be a particular point in like dividing the product into the different stages in the cycle. So it could be research. Okay, by so and so time we should be done with research. By so and so time we should be done with design. By so and so time we should have started the engineering. By so and so time we should be handling testing, by usability, then testing, then fixing bugs, then beta stage before the full release. So you could also have that here, or alternatively you could list the features like, okay, these are the features we are trying to build, and these are the status of those. So you can switch them between development, backlog, shipped, and blocked. So now this could also be edited to change. You can change this entire list drop down to include any other or remove any of the items here already. Then of course you set a deadline. So deadlines are very, very important in product development. You need to know exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, and when it ends. There must be an end date. The ending is very important. In fact, if you are a professional, you don't ask for deadlines when you start a project and you don't know the end of that project, then I don't know what you're doing, because you're supposed to know when the project ends. It meant supposed to have an end. Otherwise, there will be no seriousness and there will be no um you will never get the job done. So you need to have a date set to accomplish those different tasks. So yeah, that's about it. That's about it. Like I mentioned, this could come in different form, in different shapes and sizes, depending on what you're building and depending on, and like I mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be on Google Docs. It could be on any other platform out there, depending on the organization and what the team is using. And yeah, that's about it. Marv, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was amazing. That was a wonderful one. I personally understood, everything you explained. Yeah, and I hope those of you in the audience, if you have any questions as regards that, you can drop your questions. So thank you very much, Samuel. Yeah, we really appreciate that. That was wonderful. I'll be bringing up, Steve. So Steve, I'll be bringing you up to the stage so we can just, go ahead and discuss maybe one of the services. Let's just try to come up with a very simple, system design. Uh, kind of like a description, for a single service. So, Steve, I don't know if you can hear me. So, yeah, thank you very much, Samuel. If you have questions, drop your questions in the chat, okay?
Yeah.
Drop your questions in the chat.
All right.
Okay,
I'm here.
okay, all right. So, Steve, um, all right, let's see. Let's see. Okay. All right. So, while Steve is trying to join, I think maybe he's trying to set up his laptop or something. I'll just go ahead and share my own screen so we can see what we were, working on yesterday. Um, Let me do that. All right, so this is it. This is the gift card exchange platform. Just to be sure, hope you guys can see my screen. Right, so that is the gift card exchange platform. Sorry, and yeah, we actually outlined some of these features yesterday, from authentication. One thing that is missing right here would have been authorization. Right, authorization, very important. Um, yeah, so we have authentication and authorization. We have the notification, which can be email, WhatsApp, or SMS notification services. And then we have the gift card listing and trading, which I also think it's better if we use purchase, right? The listing and purchase service, which can even be separated. You can have like the listing service and purchase service. You have the verification service, which is the gift card verification stuff we have right here. Setting up a secure transaction. Yeah, remember when you're working on a system design, you're probably going to be looking at the functional and the non-functional requirements. So there are some other things that will definitely come up, as regards security, performance, reliability, and a bunch of other non-functional requirements. Steve, if you're ready, please let me know so that you can share your screen, okay? We just have about 15 minutes. Steve?
Yeah. I'm trying to
Okay,
talk
so
here.
I don't
So
know if Steve is speaking.
can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, hello, Steve.
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I can hear you now, Steve.
Okay. Okay. I think it's on my internet.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Do you want to share your screen now? Are you good?
Yeah. I'm trying to set up. Here is a like open it up. Hold up.
Okay, okay. All right. So yeah, we have the gift card value calculator service as well. So while we're waiting for Steve, all right. So while we're waiting for Steve, just to give some explanations, I think Steve is going to be working on the listing service, right? So Steve is going to be working on the listing service, and it will be showing us like what a listing service would look like. I mean, from a high level, I mean it can. Steve might want to dive into like the details, but yeah, I mean when you're working on the system design. When you're trying to describe the system or you're trying to design the system, you can either choose to just showcase like the high level design, or probably you want to dive deep into like the details. So Steve, are we good?
Yeah.
All
You
right.
can share my screen now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so guys, if you have questions, drop your questions in the chat. I can see some messages from Anita, um, joining us from Mombasa, Kenya, which is like I think 2 hours ahead of our time. So yeah, thanks for joining, Anita. Francis, good evening. Uh, Christian and Cassie. Right. Okay. So are you sharing now, Steve?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's coming up. Yes, I can see your screen. So all right. So off you go.
Okay. So everybody, today we'll be moving on to the listing service. Okay. So I'm just going to duplicate this guy quickly and just move over here. Okay, so for the listing service, basically, people are going to register on the platform and then they're going to try to, sell their gift card, the gift card that they have. All right, so let's imagine that. Let's take for instance that what they have to, like the seller is would have to provide would primarily be, let's say a code for instance. All right, that would be the code that they would show to whoever who is willing to buy. All right, so this would be the process. Quickly, I'm just going to um, do a little bit of this just so that. Okay, so this will be the process. So the seller is going to this will be the seller. All right, I know what. Okay, so there will be the seller on one hand. All right, and and then the seller is going to try to. Seller is going to basically just try to you know provide. Seller basically provide card code, card details. Let's say card details. Right? Because it's literally not going to be the card code alone, but they're also going to provide the details that maybe the company that issued the card, and some companies have different types of cards. Okay, for instance, Amazon have different series of cards that they can issue, so you have to select the type of card. So let's say our platform supports Amazon, right? Amazon gift cards, right? So definitely we would also list out the different type of cards that someone can sell on our platform. So list the card, provides the seller provides details. I think there's no need for this but yeah, let me just remove this guy. So seller provides details, card details, and a buyer enters trade. So somebody out there would enter trade. Oh no 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 no. Let's do, let's put that immediate step, intermediate step. Okay. So the reason why I'm creating this flow is to give us some sort of understanding of what we're trying to get at. Not exactly sure why this is not. Marv, hello
Yeah,
Marv.
yeah. I'm with you. I
Yeah,
can hear
so
you.
I don't know. I'm trying to edit this and it's just not working for some reason.
Oh, okay. Let me see from my end. I don't think it's locked in any way, but let me see from my end.
Okay.
Um, okay. Let me see if you have like permission to do that. I think you probably locked it after creating the first one.
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay.
I think I
Uh,
did. Yeah, I did. I did.
so maybe you
Yeah,
can grab another component from there.
I just fixed that. So
Okay.
a buyer So a buyer makes an offer. Okay. So this card details is going to contain some things, right? Like the issuer. Okay. So issuer, this could be like example, say Amazon, right? Amazon, for example, and then okay, the card type. Let's say the card type. Let me just try this like that. Card type. Okay, and then other card details could be like the amount, and then this would be the let's say the card, the code on the card. Let's just call it code. Okay, so this would be the information the seller has to provide. Now, while we're storing this part of the code will be encrypted at the database level before it's stored. Alright. So somebody who sees this Amazon, they see the type of car they're interested, they see the amount, and they see that nobody has actually entered the trade, so they can make an offer. Now, let's just say one person can make an offer, but of course, if it's an open market, right? With buyers and sellers on the platform, so um, multiple people can make an offer for this amount. Okay, the offer here would literally be some sort of depending on who the seller is, right? What the seller is demanding. Say they want naira. Let's say we're doing only let's say we're converting from the card. Let's say the cards are in USD. Okay, they are measured in USD. The amount of the card is measured in USD, and the seller wants naira. Okay, so people who have naira to transfer to this seller would make an offer, right? So they make an offer, and let's say I don't know any amount, and if the seller is comfortable with that, then buyer and seller enters a trade. Now it is at this point the buyer and seller enter the trade, and there's something that Amaka yesterday said, which I think it makes a lot of sense. Now Amaka yesterday said that we should maybe have, I think Amaka or Samuel, one of them said that we should have sort of like a escrow system. So basically, when the buyer chooses and the seller agrees on the offer, right? So they enter a trade, and at this point, this buyer, whoever the buyer is, um, would have to release some, that equivalent of the money, release the equivalent. Um, let's say we're looking at naira in this case, so releases the naira equivalent, that is supposed to pay, and then we hold that. Okay, linear here intro escrow system, intro the escrow system, right? Let's just say this is what happens next. All right, once they enter into the trade, so the some amount of money will be taken from the buyer into the escrow system, and at this point, um, we already have the buyer's money. Okay, so at this point, the buyer can see. Okay, at this point, buyer gets to see the and take note, by the way, this escrow system will be open for, or will be locked, sorry, for a period of time. All right, and yeah, within that period of time, the buyer is supposed to either because the truth is, I did a little bit of we did a little bit of research, and then we found that what the most effective way to verify or validate a card is to actually load it on the platform, on the issuer's platform. So, for instance, somebody is trying to list an Amazon card on our platform, and then the buyer is interested. The only way the buyer can verify or validate this is to load. Of course, the buyer must have an Amazon account, okay, and then the buyer would try to load that card, this code on the card, load it into their Amazon account, and then their wallet there would get credited. okay, until whenever they choose to, buy something. All right. So it's not like they have to use the card to buy something immediately, right? In this example. All right. So for that reason, after that's why we are taking the use the buyer's money. We're holding it first, and by the time this buyer gets to see the card, okay, the buyer gets to see the card's code. Let me put it that way. Card's code. All right. Now we said this secret system is timed, so let me just put it here so remember. So it is timed, and within this period of time, we expect this buyer to, um, you know, check the code. And it is true that when there is an issue with a particular code, assuming the code has been used before, all right, assuming the code has been used before, what happens is that the system, or sorry, the issuer's platform would indicate and as a proof, which is generally used in the market, right, as by most buyers of gift cards, is that um, you know the buyer will take a screenshot of that information from coming from the issuer of the card. Okay, so if the issuer throws an error and says, sorry, this card has been used already, right, or has been loaded already, right, that needs to be screenshotted, right. you know we need to be sure that that has happened. Okay, so that's basically how it's really done. All right, so we're just trying to model that, as a we're just trying to model that flow right now. Okay, so I gets to see the card, and of course they'll go and try to load it, and if everything is good, then I think the next process is that they would have to buyer would have to either make a complaint. Buyer makes a complaint slash makes a complaint or manually sells trade. Okay, so buyer makes a complaint or manually sells trade. So I think at this point there will be two uh, ways that this could go. Alright, so sorry. Uh, okay, so this is getting longer, but yeah. Sorry, I'm not putting the arrows yet. Mouth. I'm so sorry about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's okay. That's fine.
Okay, so these are two routes.
Can
So
you zoom in? Can you zoom in a bit so we can see it better? Just
okay,
yeah, yeah,
so
better.
okay. So buyer gets to see the card code, and at this point, of course, they take their time, go to the issuer platform, and try to load up the card. All right. So if there is a complaint, if there's an issue, of course, they have to make a complaint. Of course, with evidence. Yeah, if you're Nigerian, with evidence. Okay. So they make that with evidence. Um, or they manually close the trade in the case where everything goes fine. Right. Say that amount of that worth of card is actually valid. Right. So the next thing that they do is make sure. Okay, yeah. So the next thing that happens in the case where it times out. Okay, so if the um the whole each code system times out, okay, times out before the buyer makes a complaint, right? Times out. I think the seller gets credited. Okay, so the seller gets credited. All right. So this is basically a rough sketch. I mean, we can really dive in and look at whatever thing that we need to improve on. But this would be a rough sketch, and yeah, I think eventually, the trade just basically closes automatically. So at this point,
Yeah,
trade
yeah. I think I pretty much understand the flow. Um, so, but this point where you said that the naira, I don't know if you can maybe point to that. Yeah, the section where you spoke about the Naira transaction there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you said buyer releases the Naira equivalent to escrow system. So is there any is there any system where the the seller says, okay, I'm giving you the gift card, but I want the dollar. I want the dollar. I don't want the Naira. Is that a thing?
Yeah. I think that could be a thing, and that could be part of this whole listing. All right. So maybe the seller can also specify, you know, the currency, the fiat currency they want. Okay. So
Yeah.
you can put some, like, I don't know, you can call it on the tab is expected fiat currency. So this would be maybe part of the listing information, so that any buyer interested would see all of this. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so this is pretty much a very straightforward user flow, even without the arrows. Yeah, but I mean the
yeah,
arrows are meant to be there, to make it
yeah.
more obvious. Yeah, so I believe we have questions, of course, but unfortunately, because we're trying to make sure we stick to the time, 9 p.m., just 1 hour, we won't be able to go further. Hopefully, in the next session, you guys will be here to also see how we finalize this, because we're going to then, dive into the details of, like, the system, the API endpoints, and basically how the system, how the data would flow, right, within the system. We'll put all the necessary markers and, show you how you can implement this using a specific type of architecture, whether microservice or layered architecture. We'll talk about this in the next session. I love what, Steve just did here, because this is a very simple way. Of course, I informed him that most of the audience are, newbies. So this is a very simple way to map out the initial workflow. And I hope you guys understand this. Okay, so if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can drop them on the Discord, right? And we'll attend to those questions after this session. If you're from the Top Universe Discord server or the Techies Garage or Better Copper community, go ahead and drop your questions in the general chat, and it will be called to our attention. Of course, our attention will be called to those questions. All right. So, yeah, thank you very much, Steve. And I hope I'll see you in the next session by next week, Monday.
Okay, no problem. We'll meet again.
All right. Thank you. So, this is an amazing one. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye,
All
everybody.
right.